If you're working full-time and trying to build something on the side, the problem is not that you're not disciplined enough. It's that you don't have a system. Because trying to do it all without structure is a perfect recipe for burnout. So in this episode, I'm sharing my 5S framework. 5 shifts that are gonna let you pursue your passion while working full-time without sacrificing your sanity. Schedule, standard, space, support, and slow build. Because the truth is, you don't need to do more. You just need to do it smarter. It's not about more hustle, it's just about a better structure. Which brings me to the first S of this 5S framework, which is schedule. Because you can't build a dream in the leftover margins of your time. All right, we're getting right into the first S of the 5S framework, schedule. Because if it's not scheduled, it's optional. And when it's optional, that is how you end up having weeks go by without actually doing any of the things you wanted to do. So what I want you to do is I want you to set aside a protected time every week for you to work on this thing. And it doesn't have to be major. I'm not asking you to block off a whole day or even several hours out of it. Even if it's just 5 minutes here and there, schedule a set time that you are going to work on the thing that you're trying to pursue. And put it in your calendar just like you would anything else. Treat it like it's a meeting for work. Treat it like it's a doctor's appointment. Treat it like it's something non-negotiable. And then you'll do it consistently. And then you don't have to wait to feel inspired to work on the thing. I'll give you an example for me. Working on this podcast is something I have to schedule aside time for because I work full-time, right? This is not my main job. And so in order to do this on a weekly basis, I have to set aside time to do it. So I don't wait to feel inspired. I don't wait until I happen to have some free time. I wait until Tuesday at 7 a.m. and that's when we work on it. Because then it's not negotiable, okay? Everything else in my life is not going to get in the way of me doing it when I have this concrete set aside time that I don't negotiate with. When that time comes, I work on the thing. Which brings me to the second S of this 5S framework, which is standard. And what I mean by this is I want you to set the bare minimum effort that you need to put in order to move the needle. And the reason I like to focus on the bare minimum is because I think a lot of times when we're trying to set aside time to do something, when we're trying to pursue something new, there's a lot of motivation and there's a lot of excitement around it, and we want to try and do everything initially, right? We plan out our ideal day of what we're going to do for this, and then life inevitably gets in the way, and you very rarely are actually able to do that ideal day, and so it feels like you're falling behind. It feels like you're failing. But when you figure out what the bare minimum is, what amount of effort you could do on your worst, most busiest week, it makes it much easier for you to show up consistently and just do that. Just do a little bit to move the needle. And it'll keep that momentum and keep that motivation for you to keep going with it. So whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, whether it is pursuing a new hobby or pursuing a side hustle or leaning into a passion that you've, lost track of over the years, what is the smallest step you can take to lean into that? What is one thing you can do? So I'll give you an example for me. On my worst, most busiest week, what are some small steps I could take in order to work on this without burning myself out? Maybe it's recording 10 minutes of an episode. Maybe it's outlining one section of something I'm going to record. Maybe it's just voice noting some ideas here and there when I have them. Maybe it's figuring out a thumbnail, right? Like just one little thing that moves the needle a little bit without interrupting the rest of your life. Because I get it, shit gets busy, right? We have a lot of other things going on. If you're watching this episode, you're probably working full time. And aside from that, you probably have other things going on, right? You may have kids. You may be caring for a sick loved one. You may have multiple jobs. You might be renovating your house. You might be moving. There is so many other things that can interrupt the flow of you trying to pursue this. And so figuring out what the smallest barrier to entry is going to make it much easier for you to stay consistent. This prevents that all or nothing kind of burnout where you try and do too much on a consistent basis and it ends up being something that you can't sustain. And so when you can't do too much, you end up just doing nothing at all. This is that perfect middle ground that allows you to keep momentum. Now, the next thing that's going to help you stay consistent with this and help you get into the right mindset of working on the thing brings me to the third S of the 5S framework, which is space. Because environment triggers identity. So what I want you to do is I want you to either change your physical space when you're working on this thing, or create a designated space for it. So you could, for example, go to a coffee shop to work on this thing, or go sit in a park and work on this thing. Or you may have a designated space in your house. Maybe it's a corner of a room, maybe it's an entire room, maybe it's your back porch, some designated area where when you go to that area, you work on this thing. Because you changing your physical environment creates this mental switch and makes it a lot easier for you to get into the mindset of working on this thing. So even if you are feeling really overwhelmed with everything else going on in your life and you're finding it very hard to focus on this thing, you going into that designated space that is just for that makes it a lot easier to get into the mindset. So this podcast studio, for example, I have this little area of my house carved out just for recording podcast episodes. So when I step into this room and, turn on all the lights, do all the things, it's very easy for me to shift into the mindset of, okay, this is what we're doing. It's time for me to focus on this thing and let everything else go, right? So don't rely on motivation. Build an environment that caters to you working on your goals and rely on that. And speaking of relying, this brings me to the fourth S, which is support. Do not build your passion in silence. Don't choose what you're going to work on and tell nobody about it and expect the world to still support you in what you're doing, because people can't support you if they don't know what's going on, right? People can't help you if they have no idea what it is you're trying to do. So, whatever it is you are trying to pursue, whatever it is you're wanting to dedicate more time to, once you figure out what that scheduled time is every week, and you figure out what your bare minimum looks like, I want you to communicate that with your friends, your spouse, your kids, other family members, anybody who plays a very pertinent role in your life. Communicate with them what you're trying to do, because not only does it make it easier for them to understand what you're trying to do, but it allows them the opportunity to actually support you in that. So let's say, for example, you have young children at home, and you setting aside time to work on this thing means that your spouse may have to watch them for a little while. You having that conversation right out of the gate and communicating with them what your needs are and figuring out a way to make that work. So maybe your spouse takes the kids one night a week or for a couple hours on a certain day so you can dedicate time to this. It gets everybody in the loop. Everybody knows what's going on. It makes it much easier for them to stick to that schedule consistently so you can stick to your schedule consistently. And it can help limit things like interruptions, because people know during that time you're busy working on this thing. So they're not to bug you with other things, right? It creates an environment where it's much easier for you to show up to this thing consistently because there's less friction. You're not having to work around other people's expectations because other people are already expecting you to work on this thing. They already know what to expect, so there's no surprises, there's no friction, right? It just makes it a whole lot easier. And this makes it much more sustainable long term, because really that is the goal at the end of the day with whatever it is you're wanting to pursue. The goal is not to do it in short bursts and then quit and then never look at this thing again, right? The goal is for you to sustain this long term. The goal is for you to be able to keep showing up and keep engaging with this. And so having everybody else on board is going to make that much easier to sustain. And the last S of this framework is broken down into two parts, but two parts that are equally as important, especially if you are wanting to sustain this long term. Number one is remove the pressure to monetize it. Now, depending who you are listening, the thing that you're trying to pursue might just be a passion project, right? It might just be a hobby. It might just be something that you want to do for pure enjoyment. And if that's the case, don't worry about monetizing it at all. The goal here is just for you to enjoy it and just for you to get the mental and physical benefits of what you're doing. So you can take it off the table completely if that's not a goal of yours. If it is, if the thing that you're pursuing is a side hustle-esque type thing that you are hoping to monetize one day, I want you to take that off the table initially, because when you put a lot of pressure on yourself to monetize what it is you're doing, it changes your approach. You are showing up to it with a different level of pressure and stress than you would be if the goal was not to monetize it, or the goal was not to monetize it right now, right? So if you are just starting out, if you are just in the early stages of trying to implement this thing into your life, I want you to take that off the table. The focus right now is just showing up consistently in whatever way that means for you, finding enjoyment in the thing that you're doing, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it, right? The goal here is not for you to suffer week after week, okay? And thirdly, focus on just improving your craft, right? Improving the skill of whatever it is you're doing. We're not trying to make money. We're not trying to grow this into something massive right now. The goal is just consistent engagement, improving your skills, and finding enjoyment, okay? The goal really is just to maintain this long term. Once you have that really concretely figured out, once that's already ingrained in your routine, you already really enjoy it, you've built up a lot of skill, and you find it very easy to integrate it into your routine on a consistent basis, then yeah, if monetizing it is something you want to do, you can look at it then, right? It's just like if you were going to start working out, the goal initially is not for you to go into the gym and do this crazy workout, right? And change your physique overnight. The goal initially is just for you to get in the gym on a consistent basis. So really in the initial stages, it's quantity over quality with anything, right? Because you are just trying to build the skill of showing up. That's all you need to focus on. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how long you're there. What matters is that you just go there day after day and you repeat that habit until it's already ingrained into your routine, and then you can build from there. That is the case with anything. In the early stages, we're just trying to put in reps, okay? You're just trying to build up consistency and momentum so that you can sustain it. Because if you try and do too much too fast and you try and focus on making this huge thing, it goes back to that all or nothing fallacy that is going to cause you to burn out because you're doing too much, right? The second part of this that I want to touch on is something that I like to call micro preparation, or dripping progress throughout the week. So what I mean by this is I want you to find a way to integrate small moments of the thing you're trying to pursue into the rest of your life. And this is not included in the time that you're blocking off. This is something that I want you to slowly drip into your routine everywhere else, so that when you actually get to the structured time to work on your thing, it's a lot easier. You're not starting from zero. You already have some preparation that you've done in the background. So I'm going to explain what I mean. The way that I do this for this podcast is I have a notes app dedicated only for this podcast, only for ideas for episodes, things that I've thought about, things I want to maybe update or change about the show. Anything related to the show goes into that notes app. And I keep it on my phone, and while I'm out doing everything else, while I'm out for work, while I'm getting groceries, while I'm at the gym, every time I have an idea cross my mind of like, oh, I want to work on that, that's a good idea, I just voice note it into this notes app. And then when it comes to the structured block of time that I have to actually work on this show, I have all these ideas already there, right? I'm not starting with a blank slate. I've kind of pieced these things together throughout the week already, so I already have something to work on. And this may look different depending on what it is you're trying to pursue. Let's say, for example, you're trying to get into painting more often. This could maybe look like going on Pinterest while you're waiting to pick up your kids from school and saving some ideas for art that you want to create. Maybe it's keeping a notes app or something similar like I have and just having a brainstorm related to whatever you're doing that you just add little pieces to here and there. The goal with this one is not for you to do a ton of work. I don't want you to try and set aside any designated time for this. This is just something you kind of slip in those moments where you have a few extra minutes. Maybe you're waiting in line to pay for something at a store. Maybe you're sitting in a waiting room for your dentist appointment. Maybe you have a few minutes in the morning while you're having your coffee to think about these things, right? Just those small moments of time that we don't usually give a lot of thought to. It's usually those moments where you're pulling out your phone and scrolling just to kill the time. You know exactly what I'm talking about. In those moments, try to do a little bit of micro preparation, right? And this doesn't have to be every time, right? I don't want you to try and consume your entire life with this thing because, again, then it becomes too much and then it becomes an all or nothing problem, right? I don't want you to create a situation where it feels like this is overrunning your life. There are definitely moments where I have some free time and I do just scroll on my phone, okay? I'm not constantly prepping things for this podcast, but it's always something I keep in the back of my mind, right? So anytime something comes up, I have an easy place to put it. So if you take nothing else from this episode, I just want it to be this. You don't need more hustle. You don't have to work harder. You just need better structures in place. It is absolutely possible for you to pursue whatever it is you're wanting to pursue around the rest of the things in your life without it burning you out, without it being this thing that you can only do for a couple of weeks and then you have to quit. Sustainable growth is not built in random bursts of motivation. It's built through the things we talked about: scheduling, standards, space, support, and a slow build. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do the right things consistently. Because consistency will beat intensity every single time. The question is not, can I do it all? The question is, can I build it in a way that I can actually sustain? If this episode resonated with you and you're trying to build something sustainably while working full-time, make sure you also go and hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about building self-awareness, discipline, and structure in a way that actually supports your life, not one that's just gonna burn you out with massive to-do lists. All right, thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.